Welcome in. Welcome in. We're going to go through this post game Browns versus Chargers. A lot of people are probably sitting at home or on their way home from the stadium, uh, not happy and not excited about what we just witnessed. But I want to give you from my perspective how I'm doing after watching that game. So appreciate everybody for jumping into the stream. This was just a bad overall game all around for the team. Excuse me. Getting over low code here. This was a bad all around game. Special teams was bad. Our return coverage is bad. Our return team is bad. Defense, we gave up two big plays in the first half, which essentially ended the game based on what they were doing to us on the offense. Our offense could not move the ball. Just watching a lot of what people were saying. People were saying, why didn't we play action? The reason why we didn't play action more was because they had no threat of us running the ball, and they actually kept two high safeties for most of the game. When you have those two high safeties and they're not switching up to a single high safety to bring down help to run the ball, play action is not going to give you the advantage. And their front seven was stopping the run, so it was no reason for them to bring that eighth man in the box. So the play action game was neutralized because we couldn't run the ball. If we would have been able to take advantage of the two high safety look, running the ball, then we would have been able to get into the play action game. But they bet that their front seven would dominate against the run, and they did, and that's what basically cut half of our playbook off. So then you saw us going to a lot of spread. We went to the spread, especially in the second half with the receivers being very wide, close to the sidelines. We did that to create space because we couldn't create that space and that separation with the routes we were running. So you saw that adjustment, but by the time we got to that adjustment, it was too late in the game. Their defense had settled in. They were getting sacks. So, we made the adjustment, but it didn't make a big difference in us being able to move the ball up and down the field. We actually saw the other version of Jameis, where the team actually catches those interception opportunities. And when we saw that, we saw Jameis have 3 picks in this game. He was trying to anticipate on his last interception. Tillman didn't win his routes in the inside. They cut off the inside, so he couldn't get there. So that was an interception. He actually had one more ball that should have been an interception in the first half, where they just dropped back. It looked like they were in cover 2, and he was expecting an outside break, and the linebacker, I believe it's linebacker number 0, he just kind of followed his eyes. He dove, but he had dropped the interception. So potentially could have been a 4 interception game for Jameis today. So we got to see the flip side of the Jameis experiment. And this is what we get. Now we have Ken Dorsey calling the plays, and if you notice, the offense looked just as bad as it did when we had Deshaun Watson in there. So what that means is the scheme is losing. So the scheme was losing with Kevin Stefanski. The scheme is losing, or the scheme lost today with Ken Dorsey. That's the big difference. So we want to blame this player, blame that player. Our scheme is not winning. And one thing they kept talking about on the broadcast was they were primarily in zone coverage, and we had no way to attack. We had no way to attack them deep, so their safeties were never threatened. We also couldn't attack them to the outside. So we had small windows that we had to try to get our opportunities in, and we just couldn't cash in on those opportunities because they were extremely difficult, the windows and the pockets that they were giving us to actually work with. So this was a scheme loss on offense. This was on defense. This was a wasted Myles Garrett, great game. This was a busted coverage game, which really opened the game up because the defense was holding as long as they could until they finally just kind of, let their grips go, and Dobbins got those 2 touchdown runs. Excuse me, I am getting over a little cold that I had this week, so my apologies for that. But what did you guys see when watching this game today from the Browns? What did you see? While I'm waiting for y'all to chime in, I give you some more views. We really have to look at the interior of the offensive line. Um, Wyatt Teller, Joe Antonio, we gave up a lot of pressure coming from the inside today. And the way you can tell that the pressure was from the inside was because Jameis was scrambling to the outside. So when the pressure's from the outside, it crumbles the pocket. Jameis scrambles to the inside. When the pressure's from the inside, Jameis has to scramble to the outside. So you saw the issues and where the issues were coming from. I can't think of his name, but I believe his number is 56. He had 2 sacks on the game. He had a potential third sack. I think we had a procedural penalty or something like that. But he had a potential 3-sack game. And all his rushes were coming from the inside. We saw one time Khalil Mack was in the backfield before he almost got a strip sack on Jameis going against Conklin. So something that a lot of people aren't talking about is our star players on the offensive line are older, and they just don't have the same physical skills that they had maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Also, Nick Chubb had no running lanes today. He had no running lanes. I saw him have one really good run of about 13 yards. Besides that, he was, kind of ducking and dodging guys in the backfield, and they weren't really blitzing that often. They said a couple blitzes, but they didn't primarily blitz a lot. So that tells me that the offensive line is kind of breaking down. And, it's just one of those things that happen in the NFL. You have a window of opportunity that you have to take advantage of your team being at its peak. And fortunately, a lot of people don't want to accept this, but the Browns have kind of missed the window on their peak of a lot of their players, not named Myles Garrett, not named Denzel Ward before today. Denzel Ward struggled today. It seems like the first busted touchdown was not his fault. The second one definitely seemed like it was his fault. So, minus today, Denzel Ward has been really good this year. He had some busted coverages in this game. And since everybody isn't Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward in our other positions, they look like they got old fast. And we're definitely going to need more help. This team, I said it a couple weeks ago when Deshaun was still playing, this team wasn't a quarterback away. And I think you saw that today, that this team is not a quarterback away. I said that Jameis would not be the answer because we needed more than just a quarterback. I accepted this a couple weeks ago, more than a couple weeks ago. I called this team after Deshaun went down a 4-win team, and I stand with that. I accept that. So I'll tell you how I'm dealing with these games. A lot of people are going through a lot of different emotions when watching the Browns, and I understand. But I've been a Browns fan long enough that I have to start to repair how I go through a season watching the Browns, and this is what I use. So I just got this here, the stages of grief. So first is denial. This is where we were early in the year, the first couple weeks of the season, especially after we beat the Jaguars. We're in denial. Well, anger. You saw that around week 4 to 6. You saw a lot of anger. Bargaining, you saw this. Oh, man, if we just bench Deshaun, start Jameis, everything will be okay. I think a lot of people are stuck in the depressing phase. And if you look at the fans who were at the stadium at the game today, they just kind of sit there with blank stares. I think they're in this phase. What I did was I got to the acceptance phase of this situation maybe about 4 weeks ago when I just determined that this was a bad team. Once I determined this was a bad team and I wasn't picking them to win every game, I was able to move forward. I can watch these games and I can just see what's happening clearly, and I don't have the additional I posted this an hour ago, me watching the game. I don't have the additional emotions towards the game like I normally would, and just have to learn to accept it and move on to other things. This game is strictly entertainment for me. I've taken all of the emotional attachment to this game away. based on how the Browns season is going. So I'm just watching it strictly entertainment, hoping I see a couple players do some good things, hoping the Browns can be competitive. And like I said in my pregame, I'm just looking for the Browns to be competitive against our divisional opponents. I'm not talking playoffs. A lot of people are talking playoffs this week. A lot of people are saying we're going to win out. I just didn't see that because I just see that we have a lot of glaring holes on this team. So I was not seeing things the way a lot of people saw it leading into this game. And I knew that the Chargers would be a tough team. The Chargers are a team that they're built like they have a Trent Dilfer style quarterback. But the problem is they actually have I would say a top 10 talent wise quarterback, but they play like they have a Trent Dilfer style quarterback. So they rely on the defense, rely on the run game, and they let Herbert take advantage of it when the opportunities are there. He's not turning the ball over a lot. And with that, they're more like a 2000s team. They're going to be hard to beat, hard nosed team, tough. So, just knowing that going into the game, I was not, I would have took the Browns in the points if I would have bet. But shortly into the game, I would have knew that was a bad decision, especially after those two busted coverages. So how do y'all feel? How do y'all feel if you're not a Browns fan, if you're rooting for another team, the Chargers or otherwise? I know there are a lot of teams that are going through this right now where they just have to accept. Let's check out the scoreboard. I'll show you some teams who are actually in a similar place as the Browns, but just not sure if they're ready to accept it. Raiders, we know they're there. Patriots, Titans, we know both of those teams are there. This game right here, Jaguars, I don't know if they're ready to accept it, but they're another team that should accept it. Bears, Cardinals, I see more upside in the Bears than I do in the Cardinals. Lions, Packers, both of those teams are trending in the right direction. Rams, Seahawks, I think as the Rams get healthy, they're trending in the right direction. I think Seahawks are going in the reverse. Colts, this is a team in shambles based on what they have going on with their starting quarterback. I remember it was maybe like a month ago. Excuse me. I told everyone that any quarterback who comes into the NFL in their first couple of games, they say the NFL is easy. I tend to move away from thinking that quarterback will be good because I know they're rushing to judgment, especially when they say that in preseason. Anthony Richardson I don't think he played more than 14 games in college, but he said that the NFL was easier than him playing at Florida. As you see, he has struggled this year. He's been benched after he pulled himself out the game last week. So I lose faith in those guys who speak that way, especially in their, early in the year when he hasn't even started a full season yet. So I just backpedal from that. You look at a team like the Cowboys, who after they beat us the first week of the year, they probably thought they had Super Bowl hopes. I would be upset if I was a Cowboys fan because until Dak got injured today, they were getting guys back. Their defense is just terrible. They just look like world beaters against us, but their defense is terrible. Falcons trending in the right direction, definitely. Kirk Cousins is going to be a quarterback. He's going to be in this league for as long as he wants to because guys are struggling to read defenses, and he can still read the defense. He can't really move, but he can read the defense. Bills, Dolphins. Bills, they're doing what they do. Dolphins, they're in a tricky spot. A lot of people only talk about the Browns when it comes to quarterback situations and not being ideal. I think the Dolphins and the Cowboys are two teams who paid their quarterbacks who probably will want some take backsies if they could, based on how their quarterbacks have been looking. Bengals, Raiders. Raiders know what it is. Bengals look to be turning their season around. If I'm a Saints fan, I'm just sitting here like, what are we doing? They can't get right at quarterback. It doesn't matter. Panthers, they do a lot of things wrong. They do a lot of things wrong, but they figured out a way to win. So good for them, I guess. Broncos, they're not as good as their record says, I would say. And then Ravens, you got them as probably the number 2 team in the AFC behind the Chiefs. Let's see. Giants, they're another team who paid a quarterback a couple years ago, lost some key players on offense. So I would be upset if I was a Giants fan. This is one of those teams that this is kind of where we were, the Browns were a couple years ago, where you think you're only a quarterback away. But the problem is all of your star players got 3 years older while you were waiting to get that quarterback. And then it hits you. Now, if they go make a big splash for a quarterback this offseason, this team still won't be better. Commanders look like they basically had the best draft this year based on impact that Jalen Daniels is having so far. So there it is. We just kind of went through the wrap up of all the teams and kind of how they are. Just letting y'all know how I process what's happening with the Browns as a Browns fan. I've been a Browns fan too long to not accept when our team is not good. I think about years where we had Hugh Jackson and we won one game in 2 years. And I would watch every week and I just had the emotions there. And it was just turmoil. It was turmoil. I mean, it was, I was torturing myself every weekend watching it with the idea that we might do something well. I've learned from those situations and I don't do that anymore. So now I just accept we're 2-17 or 1-4 at home. And it is what it is. Also, last week, I talked about how Browns fans got everything they wanted in 1 week and nothing has changed. So you got Stefanski giving up play calling. You got Jedrick Wills not starting at left tackle. You got DeJuan Jones trying out at left tackle. This is going back to last week. You got Jameis in instead of Deshaun Watson. You got everything you wanted. You got everything you wanted. If it was a smorgasbord of everything you want as a Browns fan for them to try out, you got all those things, and you had 1 week of a high, and then you come back this week and this is the exact same team that we watched when we had Deshaun Watson starting. If you look at pre-snap penalties, we still had those. We had some holding calls. We still had the same issues. On one hand, last week they said guys were getting open, so basically the talent was always there. And this week they're saying the talent isn't there and guys can't get open. It's just a lot of stuff wrong with this team. So to save yourself and to protect your energy throughout the rest of this year, just take it from me and accept that if your team is 2-7, if your team only won 2 games this year, accept that you just root for a bad team so you can move on and you don't feel down. I'll tell you another trick that us Browns fans have. So we root for the Browns and we put a lot into it and we buy the merch and all this stuff when we go to games. But one thing we also have is Ohio State. Ohio State is good majority of the time. So it gets to a point where we kind of just accept the Browns might be the downside to our weekend, and we expect Ohio State to be the upside. So if you're not an Ohio State fan or if your college team isn't doing well, you got to pick another hobby that you have that you enjoy so you don't let, this NFL season bring you down. So that's my advice to you on how to make it through this season. Also, look at them stages of grief and just see where you are and accepting it. I'm at the acceptance phase of this grief with the Browns season. I accepted it. I don't lose sleep over it. I don't lose energy. I don't get headaches. I don't feel any type of way when the Browns don't do well. I just look, I accept it, and I go on to the next thing that, I want to do or I want to see or I want to enjoy for the weekend. So with that being said, I appreciate everybody for tapping into this post-game stream. I'm pretty sure there are probably going to be a lot of post-game streams that you'll be able to tap into, you'll be able to watch. But me, I like to get right to it, state my points, and keep it moving. So check me out, Off the Record Gaming on everything. This is more than just video games. This is video games. This is sports. This is music, lifestyle. Of course, the 216 teams are the teams that I root for. So definitely check me out, Off the Record Gaming on everything. I got a Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, and here on the X. I go live 30 minutes prior to kickoff, and I also go live post game for Browns game. Browns are on the bye, which is great. So if you're still struggling with the season, you get a mental break with the Browns being on a bye week. So I appreciate everybody for tapping into the post game stream. Check me out on all platforms. If you follow me on any platform, I'll definitely follow you back. And I'll also check out some of your content if you are a budding content creator. So definitely follow for a follow and sub for a sub just so we can build this thing up organically. So I appreciate y'all. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Get outside before this weekend is over and we get back to the grind of the work week.